Continue to enjoy your lunch, but if you would just quiet down for a second and listen to me for just a few minutes. I mentioned earlier the amount of work that went into getting PCs for people to come to our market, and we have really appreciate what Meta's done and other foundations, and one in particular, I want you guys to meet George Birdsong. And he probably doesn't need any introduction, but George has really started something, the Birdsong Health Literacy Center for Excellence. And so, George, I want you to share what your vision is with PCs for People.
Okay. Thank you very much. You heard Birdsong Health Literacy Center for Excellence mentioned by Casey, and you maybe didn't get the full connection. The connection is that we started in Hampton Roads just recently, within the last few months, an organization called Birdsong Health Literacy Center for Excellence. And it's a 501c3, and the idea is to raise funds to try to get health information out to everyone in Hampton Roads free, that is on their cell phone, their computer, and so it's with them everywhere. It's got 100 different aspects of information, from diabetes to health issues and so forth. So you really have health information with you wherever you are. And so the most exciting thing in this happened about a couple of weeks ago when Casey came to Hampton Roads and was looking around for the support from our communities, and not only Hampton Roads but also Richmond, and he was talking about his program. And we had a meeting with him. Tom Chamberlain, who's head of EdLogix, and myself met with him, and John Martin, and we realized that we had something that could really work well together, and that was we can put our health platform on Casey's computers. So when he's giving computers out to underserved neighborhoods and those that need it, they will have an app on that computer that has health information. So rather than just giving a blank computer, it will be a computer that has health information. They will be schooled on how to use it. Casey, as you said, they had a service where they provide information on how to use the computers and so forth. So this platform regarding health will be on all the computers that Casey is delivering. And that is a major thing, we think. And if it works here, we'll start with Hampton Roads, Richmond area, and go into the other 10 cities perhaps that Casey has his program in, and have health information available to people, all of them who are getting these free computers. We think it's a great advancement in trying to help people get healthy. We've talked so much about platforms and getting health to people, but you've got to get them to use it, and we want a healthy workforce, not just a workforce, but a healthy one. And that's what's so important, and we think this can be a big effort in making that become an accomplishment. Thank you very much, but I just want to make y'all see the connection between what he was mentioning and what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Great. Well, keep enjoying your lunch. I know that it's made possible in part by Centera. Centera is our luncheon underwriter, and it's my honor to introduce Anna James, who is the Senior Vice President, Government and Community Relations for Centera. Anna?
Good afternoon. It is our pleasure to be your lunchtime sponsor. as well as for our speaker. And my name is Anna James, Senior Vice President of Government Community Relations for Centera. And I was thinking back, I came to the Convergence in 2020. Who was here? Yep, everyone. It was probably how many tables versus today? I'm just telling John, I mean, we've come a long way. And I remember that first meeting that we had, and so Howard Kern, the former CEO of Centera, and Dr. Rao, president of ECU, spoke. And everyone is like, what is this? What are we trying to do? And now we have actionable items and are progressing to this mega region concept. So just really kudos to John Martin and a lot of the people in the room staying with us through looking at this from that perspective. Just a little bit about healthcare. Healthcare knows no boundaries. We don't have regions in healthcare because things that affect those in Southwest Virginia affect those in Hampton Roads, in rural and urban and suburban areas. And it doesn't know city lines, region lines. It's really personal to individuals. And as the largest health system in Virginia, we have 34,000 hardworking employees that work here. And we take our role as an anchor institution at Centera very seriously. And that's why in 2023, we invested $294 million into the communities we serve. And this includes $47 million in grants that Centera gave throughout Virginia. And so we're very excited to be a partner in this mega region, in this conversation and discussion. And with that, I want to introduce our speaker that we have lined up today. Adrienne Cole is the president and CEO of the Greater Raleigh Chamber and leads the Triangle's largest business membership organization, representing 2/3 of the private sector employment in Wake County. In this role, Adrienne and her team support the interests of the local business community while building a thriving regional economy, enhancing the community's quality of life, and strengthening member businesses. Under Adrienne's leadership, the Chamber and Wake County Economic Development led economic development project wins totaling $5.24 billion, resulting in 23,600 jobs since 2014. And so now it's a privilege to welcome Adrienne here and tell us about the secret sauce. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. I'm going to make sure I know how to work this clicker. It's so good to be with all of you this afternoon. First, a big thanks to John and to Greg and to Brian Anderson and Brian Stevens for having me. It is great to see a group of people coming together to find out ways to work together and to chart a course for an exciting future for your region. So thank you all very much for having me. Let me share a little bit about what's happening in the Triangle region. Similar to when we do inner city visits, when we go to another city and we learn about what's happening in that city, I tell our participants the idea is not to necessarily replicate what we see in other communities, but to get ideas, to be inspired, to figure out how these things might apply in your own region. So my intent is to share sort of how we do what we do, and then hope to have some time to answer any questions that you all have. So we've been focused a bit, are these things up on the slide? Oh yeah, good, okay. Focused on this concept of radical collaboration. And we're really, really vehement and protective of the way we collaborate in the Triangle region, and I'm going to share more about that. A little bit about the Chamber. I'm going to click through this really quickly. The Chamber has several programs that have a regional footprint. So we run Wake County Economic Development. That is a public-private partnership with Wake County government. Wake County has 12 municipalities. Raleigh is the largest. So we work very collaboratively with all 12 municipalities to support their economic development and their economic development goals. Some of them are very rural, some of them are very suburban, some are more urban, and we really work to meet them where they are. Raleigh Economic Development is a program of the Chamber in partnership with the City of Raleigh. We run a talent recruitment initiative called Work in the Triangle that we launched in 2011 and then revamped in 2022. We are home to the Regional Transportation Alliance led by Joe Malazzo. That is a 15-county effort focused on mobility. It is a business-led organization that focuses on transportation initiatives in our region. So everything from the expansion of bus rapid transit to parks and greenways, to air service, to working with our North Carolina Department of Transportation. Joe is in the middle of all of those things. Was excited to see the slides earlier about I-87 and the S-Line, because that connectivity between our regions, I think, is going to breed lots of opportunity. We are also home to the Triangle Diversity, Equity, and Inclusivity Alliance. That's an effort that we launched in March of 2017, very focused on the business community's interest in DEI, so diverse talent pipeline and appealing to diverse customers and clients is the focus of the DEI Alliance. And then we have a Raleigh Chamber Foundation where a lot of support comes in for our talent and workforce efforts, some business sustainability efforts, and our DEI work. So overview of our areas of focus very quickly. I'm not going to belabor these, but as an organization, we certainly are working to support our members. We do a lot in product development and community development. I tell people you cannot, in economic development, sell from an empty wagon. You just can't. And so you have to be focused on not only meeting the needs of companies today, but meeting the needs in the future, identifying sites, identifying opportunities, paying attention to infrastructure. I'll talk more about infrastructure. When you're growing as rapidly as we are, you have to be focused on infrastructure, and that can't be done in a vacuum. So that product development piece is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about as an organization. And then certainly economic development, business recruitment, retention, expansion, existing industry support, bringing talent into the market. There was a conversation earlier about incentives, so negotiating incentives. Site identification, we identified, this might be a surprise, we did a site identification effort at Wake County this past year. As rapidly as we are growing, we identified 8,000 acres for potential development. It is outside of our many ETJs, so we'll need infrastructure, but we have our eye on it. We also are looking at it to understand where is our community college expanding, so that we can align cluster recruitment around the support that we want to make sure we're giving from the talent pipeline side. So quick introduction to the Triangle. Most of you are familiar. This is why we're called the Triangle, anchored by 3 Tier 1 research universities with the Research Triangle Park in the center. I'll talk a little bit about sort of the evolution of the park, but the park is over 60 years old now, and in addition to these colleges, we have 12 colleges and universities in the region, 9 community colleges in the region. Wake Technical Community College has 75,000 students, and there is not a single economic development project that we aren't working that with Wake Tech in the room meeting with the client. So we're a smart region like yours. 47% of our population has a bachelor's degree or higher. We're the 4th largest concentration of PhDs in the country. And then population age, the bulk are in that section of 18 to 64, and 37.3 is the median age. We are the 2nd fastest growing region in the country and 3rd fastest growing city in the country, which is precipitating some additional needs for collaboration that I'll talk about as we try to stay ahead of that growth. I love Raleigh and Wake County and the Research Triangle region. It is a great place to live, and I want to make sure it's still a great place to live in 50 years. I have 3 kids. One's 23, one's 21, one's 16. We love it. We are native North Carolinians, and we want this to be a thriving region for many years to come. So we've got to keep an eye on the ball when we are looking at the growth that we're facing. These are our primary industry sectors. We have a large professional service sector as well, but obviously strong in software and IT, life sciences. Those large investment numbers that she mentioned in my bio, a lot of that has been driven by large life science projects. They have significant CapEx. Clean tech is a growing area, and then advanced manufacturing. And then you see where some of these areas overlap. So as an example, Biogen, which would be identified as a life science company, has their global data group in their facility in RTP. So data analytics and data science, and that aligns with the conversation that we just had before lunch. So as I mentioned, talent and higher ed, these are the 12 colleges that are in our area. 3 HBCUs, which is fantastic, the largest women's college in the Southeast, Meredith. And then I mentioned Wake Tech and the important role that they play. Some of our recent announcements, Fujifilm Diasynth Biotechnologies, they actually have facilities in Morrisville and Holly Springs, and this is an expansion. They announced a few years ago a large project in Holly Springs. That's an expansion of that. But you see some of the other expansions and relocations into the market. Interestingly, we're starting to see some office. I don't know if you all are starting to see some office, a little bit, but starting to see some office projects, so that's exciting. So pillars of economic development, and this is going to be my segue into the ideas around radical collaboration. So comprehensive infrastructure development. I mentioned our growth. We've always done infrastructure work as it related to economic development, but it hasn't been done in a comprehensive way. So we started waiving the need for water and wastewater coordination a few years ago. The county heard us and started a One Water initiative, bringing all the water and wastewater providers together to collaborate, to understand who has plenty of capacity, who might need more. And then my head of economic development and myself went and presented to them and literally watched their heads explode as they realized that they didn't have our economic development pipeline in their plans. So they now do, as we're thinking about water and wastewater into the future. But there's also a need to layer up in our region what our energy needs are, what our water and wastewater needs are, what our open space needs are, where is Wake Tech planning to expand. So we want to do a comprehensive infrastructure plan for Wake County, but that's a big, big, big project. So we're working with the town of Garner, a city right outside of Raleigh, to do a pilot program to figure out all the kinks, and then we'll expand it countywide, and then we'll take it to Durham County, and we'll expand it to the region. So with that project, we feel like we need to sort of crawl before we walk, before we run, but we'll be working on that in a collaborative way in the region. You see the other areas: business recruitment, talent recruitment, marketing, global awareness, but then regional leadership. So what is radical collaboration? These are just some of the partners with whom we work on a regular basis, and I couldn't fit more on the screen. And I didn't want to have to click through a bunch. And when I say we work with, we are in these communities. We bring these folks together on a regular basis to understand what they are working on, how we can support them, what we need to do as a region to win. And I'll talk more about that. So how do we do that? When I say we bring them together, we literally do that. We come together and we break bread and we talk, and it is a regular standing meeting. So these are just a few of them. The Leadership Roundtable is held at the Chamber. It's the first Friday of every month from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning. It's our mayor, it's our city manager, it's our county commission chair, our county manager, it's our school superintendent, our school board chair, it's the CEO of the airport, it's the head of the Research Triangle Park, it's the head of the Research Triangle Regional Partnership, it's the head of the Downtown Raleigh Alliance, it's the head of Go Triangle, our transit organization. You get the picture. They each have, so they meet in my office. We never canceled this meeting. It has been going on for 25 years, I would say. There is a 3-minute timer that each person gets to share what they are working on in their organization. It is a safe zone. So anything shared in that meeting is not taken out of that meeting unless there is a strategic reason to do so. That breeds trust and collaboration over a long period of time. So when you have an opportunity, like a major recruitment opportunity in front of you, or a crisis, a pandemic, you have a group of people with whom you already know and can work. That has been going on for a long time. It was started by my predecessor, but I protect it vehemently. The regional roundtable breakfast is sort of dedicated to downtown. The leadership lunch, I take the city manager, the county manager, and the school superintendent to lunch every month, and they've got hard jobs. Those are hard jobs, and it gives them an opportunity to share what they're working on. It also gives them an opportunity to work through. The school board is going to ask for more money from the county than the county's prepared to give, and the two professional leads can work through that before it gets out into, before it's being aired in front of everybody, so we can work through things. The regional roundtable is Wake County, Durham County, Orange County. So Duke, UNC Chapel Hill, NC State. So we come together as chambers and economic development organizations, and we are very forthright about the projects that we're working on an economic development perspective. I'll say, we're working Project Napkin. That's not a real project. And are you working Project Napkin? Well, yeah, I am. Well, how are you doing? Or we may say, we got this project, it's clear they're looking at the region, let's do a joint RFP response. So we will respond to the opportunity as a region, and then we will work the project in a joint client visit. The company at the end of the day is going to decide what community with whom they want to work with. Which university do they want to partner with? Which community college do they want to partner with? Do they want to be in a cool warehouse in downtown Durham or a high-rise in downtown Raleigh? It does not matter. We want the region to win. And that regular cadence of meetings, I cannot overstate how important that is in the radical collaboration that we exercise in the Triangle. I'll give you an example. We had a project looking at the region, and our friends in Durham were down a person. I've got a larger economic development team than they do, and they were in between economic developers. And so I got a call from the Durham Chamber president, and he said, Adrienne, can a member of your team work the project in Durham? And I said, absolutely. So a member of my Wake County team went and showed the client Durham, toured the client in Durham, shepherded them through the process. The project landed in Durham. And that was a great win for them, and we were excited for them. With this work, we generally, I tell my team all the time, be generous with credit and do not have sharp elbows. Keep those elbows tucked and be the first entity to congratulate our neighbors on their wins. So you see some of the practitioners meeting is bringing the local economic developers together every other month to collaborate from all of the towns and communities. And then Transportation Leadership Council is led by Joe. This regular cadence of meetings really, really matters. So what does it do? It builds trust. You're getting to know these people. You're understanding their pain points. You're understanding how you can combine resources and leverage resources. You're getting good ideas from each other. And what it does is it breeds greater success, better results, sustainable growth, a focus on what matters, and you don't spend time focused on what doesn't matter. I also really like these people, and I want to live to fight another day and work with them again tomorrow, and I don't want to get all mad about whatever the thing is that's right in front of us in the moment. We have to live beyond the project in front of us or the issue that we're dealing with in front of us. So a history, I thought it might be helpful to quickly run through sort of how we got here, because this has been building over many, many years. So in about 2000, business leaders, the chamber leader, Harvey Schmidt, who is my mentor and trained me, felt like we weren't doing that great of a job as a region and operating as a region. We had Durham kind of doing its own thing and sort of not working great with Wake. Wake wasn't working great with Durham. Chapel Hill, Orange County, they weren't really in the mix. So they embarked on this effort called a family of communities. And the thinking was, like a family, each person could have their own first name, but we were all going to have the same last name, Research Triangle. And like a family, every member of the family could have their own personality, what made them special, their own vibe, but they still have the same last name and some shared values. That effort, the Family of Communities campaign, really only lasted a few years, but it really unlocked channels of communication. And as Harvey said, when something needed to be worked through, instead of throwing a brick bat, that was his term, you picked up the phone and you called your colleague to work through the issue. And that was really set the groundwork. Here was some of the marketing that they did at the time. So Wolves, obviously NC State, Bulls, Durham Bulls, and the Blue Devils. And then Antiques, Boutiques was Chapel Hill. But helping sort of brand each community, but with that last name of Research Triangle. The other thing that I think is critically important to our collaboration is it's both driven by intentional leadership, but then also the structure. So we do a 5-year fundraising campaign for economic development called EDGE. We're wrapping up EDGE 6. We're fundraising for EDGE 7. We have a $7 million goal over the 5 years to support our economic development plan. 25% of the money we raise will go to the Research Triangle Regional Partnership. That is a 14-county effort focused on marketing the region. So our structure facilitates the collaboration too, because we're his largest funder. I sit on his board, I'm on his executive committee, we collaborate on marketing. We're able to leverage our local marketing dollars to supplement what the EDP&C is doing. You heard John talk about the $20 million that they put forward. We're generating about our own $1 million a year toward marketing as a region. We're not stepping on toes, we're not duplicating efforts, but that funding also means that I'm out fundraising for the region with my team, and the leader of RTRP isn't fundraising in competition with me. And so that structure really, really matters. We also have a government affairs function that is supportive of the 18-county region also, which is funded through EDGE. So that intentional leadership, so why do I have a picture of a sheriff up there? So when I became CEO, so my pathway was economic development. I ran Raleigh Economic Development and then Wake County Economic Development before moving into the CEO seat about 8 years ago. When I became CEO, Harvey said, okay, you're the sheriff. And I went, huh? I got to figure out how to be CEO. I don't know what you're talking about, the sheriff business. He said, you are the protector of our regional collaboration. And he was right. So, you know, I make sure that these regional meetings continue to happen. My assistant is the person sending out the email reminders. We don't host them all at the chamber, but we're kind of powering it and fueling it. If someone stops showing up to a meeting, if they aren't coming to the leadership roundtable, they get a call from me. Where are you? Your voice matters. And then it's usually followed by a don't complain to me if you're not going to come. So they are expected to show up. And as I said, we don't cancel these meetings. So once they're on somebody's calendar, there's no excuse unless you're sick or you're on vacation. Okay, occasionally you can not show up. But on balance, they need to be coming. And I sort of make sure that happens. So I'm picking up the phone and calling. It also shows the incredible power of chambers, of what Brian and Brian can do to convene the right people, to have the right conversations, to keep your region moving forward. So where does it show up? It shows up in our economic development. It shows up in transportation. It's showing up in a big way in infrastructure development. I'll tell you, talking again about that power, we organized the first infrastructure meeting recently. We had all the different infrastructure providers in one room together at the chamber. And the man who runs Raleigh Water looked at someone from Dominion Energy and said, I've never been in a meeting with you. I went, what? And so we need to be having these conversations. It's how you figure out what each other's working on. Education is obviously critically important. That's where collaboration shows up. Government affairs, as I mentioned, we work with 18 chambers to do a regional policy agenda. That helps in a purple state like North Carolina. We are nonpartisan. We do not have a PAC. We don't endorse candidates, but we do have a policy agenda. And when I can build an agenda that is appealing to Republican-leaning communities and Democrat-leaning communities, it helps us get things done in the legislature. Product development and community development, and big projects, when big projects pop up, and I'll share a few of those. So what's next for us? Obviously, I've mentioned infrastructure, continuing to develop an advanced technology industrial ecosystem, managing success, economic mobility and opportunity. That ladder to success is so important for our community also. Comprehensive infrastructure obviously is critically important and is a pillar of our EDGE 7 campaign. And you see some quotes from some local executives in our market. RTP is going through a re-envisioning. RTP 3.0 is really looking at land uses in the park, allowing for some zoning overlay to allow more density, some retail, residential coming into the park, while also maintaining its commitment to research and development and to the companies that are already there. Bus rapid transit I mentioned, Triangle Expressway expansion, I-87, the S-Line, all of those are focuses. We have a real focus around sports as an economic development driver. Carolina Hurricanes are in our community. Just approved a 20-year lease, a major arena renovation, and worked collaboratively with NC State University, the state of North Carolina, the city, and the county to do a $1 billion redevelopment around the arena, which we're very excited about. And there might be a few other teams that we're working to recruit to our market. And then the Raleigh to Richmond high-speed rail S-Line, we're super excited about seeing how we can expand that triangle, John, and work closely with you. I once had a reporter call me and say, I want to talk to you about the competition between Charlotte and Raleigh. And I said, what competition? And he said, what do you mean, what competition? I said, I want Charlotte to be wildly successful, and I'm going to do everything I can to help them be. He said, thank you for your time, goodbye. I feel the same way about your region. If there are collaborations, if there are opportunities to work together, if there are opportunities to collaborate on that larger triangle, we are here for it. And with that, I would love to entertain any questions. Thank you so much. You've been a great audience. So, questions? I stunned you all. Oh, one over here. Oh, I think you need the mic. They're not going to let you finish.
Joe Hines with Timmons. I know I'll see you around the Raleigh area
Yes,
quite a
you
bit.
do.
And my 1988 story was actually I was co-oping with IBM at Research Triangle Park, and they had an internal internet system, and I was communicating with somebody in Australia during my internship. You know, you mentioned about working together, a little bit better working together. What are some of the things that you think that the Hampton Roads region can do to work better with the North Carolina localities, cross-border, and obviously with the rail to Richmond? So I think that's a little bit of a key to success for the future, but what do you see as things that need to be done,
Well,
either governmentally or organizationally, to help
yeah,
that?
thank you. I think it's already starting. I mean, conferences like this, where you invite people like me, are a great step. So kudos to John and Greg. Nancy came up to me at the break and said, I want to get together and talk to you about I-87, and she already has heard from Joe Malazzo, because we want to make sure that Joe is a very outgoing transportation engineer. And so once Joe is onto something, he is onto it. And so those types of collaborations, I think, reaching out. I think the other thing is, you know, err on the side of asking, err on the side of engaging for us and for you all. So if there's something that we are working on that we think could have some engagement here and some extra oomph, then we need to be reaching out, and vice versa. And then I think, you know, the next step is, how do you think about regions across state lines and get elected officials supportive of that as well? But it starts with ideation and vision and putting together the right collaborative teams to get it done. Thank you for the question.
And hello,
Hi.
Art Hall with Tidewater Community College. The term product development from a chamber perspective caught my attention. So what does that mean to you, and how are you making that happen?
Yeah, thank you. So when I think product development, I'm thinking about what are the puzzle pieces that my community needs to have to win? So product development in that sense is a strong education ecosystem. It's having sites and buildings ready to go for economic development projects. It's having the right infrastructure in place. But it's also things like greenways. You all had that conversation earlier. It's housing and housing affordability and housing stock. It's quality childcare. You know, we're thinking a lot about how childcare is funded in the state of North Carolina, because it's not working right now, and that's a huge part of the workforce's ability to be successful and to show up to work. So, you know, and policy, government affairs has a lot to do with product development, but not entirely. So it's all of those things that we need to be paying attention to in order to be successful as a region. Yeah, great question. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Tom Chamberlain from AdLogix. I used to have an office in RTP, and congratulations on everything you're doing down there. It's a great place. And I was just, some of that question, some of your answer talked on health. Healthcare wasn't listed in your list of 8 or 9 issues. Are you doing things to improve the health of the region? You obviously have Duke and UNC and a lot of healthcare systems, but if you could mention some of the things that you're doing there to improve the health of your citizens.
For sure. So we are very engaged with all of the major healthcare systems. So we have we have UNC, certainly UNC Health and UNC Healthcare, and then Duke, but then we also have Wake Med, which is a very large private hospital in our market. And Wake County government is very involved in community health outcomes and working on those things. We sit on some task forces around that. We have an effort underway right now focused on health equity, education equity, criminal justice, and economic mobility, and health has its own pillar that we're focused on. So looking at things, everything from food deserts to housing opportunity, to childcare, that's a big issue, to preventative care, working closely with Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare. So we have a whole ecosystem of folks, and we're very much engaged in those conversations. I appreciate the question. Yeah, thank you.
Andrea, again, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate it. It's good to see you again. My question has to do with marketing your region. Could you share with us how you go about marketing your region, especially as it pertains to attracting and retaining talent?
Yes, absolutely. So I mentioned the Work in the Triangle initiative, which we started in 2011, and we really did a revamp of it about 3 years ago. With Work in the Triangle, there's a website that people can go to that has, it's very interactive. There's a cost of living calculator, there's a lifestyle calculator, do you like bourbon or beer? Do you like jazz or bluegrass? That sort of thing. Do you want to live on a horse farm or in a high rise? That's a great landing spot, but we also target 20 cities across the country in digital marketing to recruit talent in. And we have provided the Work in the Triangle information to our existing companies to add into their recruitment efforts. We do an online career fair every Tuesday on X now called Triangle Tuesdays. That's been going on since 2011, and companies will send us positions that they want to highlight and have a pretty vast reach on. And because it's been going on so long, we really see the activity spike every 2 weeks. So that's on the talent recruitment side. And the 20 cities that we target change every year based on feedback from our business community. So we do a regional skills analysis every year, partnering with Research Triangle Institute, which is a local think tank. We just completed the third one. We had about 1,000 responses from businesses across vast industry sectors, and they are telling us what positions are hard to fill, and we get information from them about where we can target talent into the market. So there's some macro work like that. There's also macro work on the sort of business recruitment side with site selection consultants and cluster-based marketing. But then we sometimes get really targeted. So I'll give an example. We were competing for an economic development project, and in one of our meetings, you got to really listen. You have to listen to what they're saying intentionally, what they are saying by mistake, and what they are not saying, but you can pick up on by body language. And so in this conversation, one of their executives happened to say that they were going to be surveying their employees ahead of shortlisting the communities. And we went, huh. So using some digital marketing and some geofencing, we targeted their area with information about the triangle ahead of them taking that survey. And we won the project. So, I think that, our marketing efforts are macro, and then they can be very, 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 very targeted. And so we can do targeted recruitment if we're working with a company also that has specific needs on the talent side. But Work in the Triangle, if any of you want to see it, it's workinthetriangle.com, and it's been a great resource for us. Thanks for the question. Yeah, one over here. Coming. She's getting her exercise. She's like,
thank you. That was great. One of the things that struck me is your comment that essentially there's no limit to what we can do if we don't care who gets the credit.
Yes, sir.
Now, I think we all believe that within this room. How did you all unlock that?
So over time, now it's sort of become muscle memory, but it wasn't always that way. And so Harvey Schmidt, again, and the business leaders who came together in the early 2000s really hammered it into everyone they talked to. So what you say matters, and there's power in words. And so in every conversation that they had, they said, it doesn't matter who gets the credit. When I started working for Harvey in 2004, it was one of the first things he said to me, Adrienne, I know you're in economic development, and economic development can hold projects close to the vest and not want to share information and want to get the credit. He's like, it's amazing what we can accomplish if you don't care about the credit. So it was just sort of hammered into us early on. I'm now carrying that message. When somebody new comes into the market who maybe has worked in a place where they have sharper elbows, one of the very first calls they get is from me, and let's go to lunch. So I spend time with them, and I share sort of our value system as it relates to that and what's important to us. And I'm not going to name names, but we had one person come in, he had pretty sharp elbows. We went to lunch, he said he got it, and then the next quote in the paper, I was like, oh boy, he doesn't get it. So I called him up and said, we've got to go get coffee. And it took 3 or 4, I kind of had to keep at it. And then about a year passed, and he called me and said, can we go to lunch? And I said, sure. And he sat down in front of me and he said, how am I doing? This is a much better way to work. Am I doing it okay? And I was like, yes. It feels so good. But I think it has to become sort of ingrained in it has to start with the leadership, and then it has to become ingrained in your staffs, because your staff is going to become the future leaders. There are opportunities to share it in your young professional networks and in your business after hours and in your conferences. It is a way of doing things that I think the regions that are going to win long term are the regions who work well together and do not care about the credit. Any question back here? I promised so we got about 4 more minutes. I promised to get the conference back on time. So.
I think the collaboration efforts are wonderful that y'all put together. Do y'all collaborate to work with political leaders? Because a lot of times to push the agenda forward, you need to work together. And sometimes the namesayers come out and they kind of stifle economic development. How do you work with political leaders?
That's a great question. We work very closely with political leaders, and so we work closely with our county commission. We work closely with the city councils at all 12 municipalities. We work closely with our state delegation. And I think, again, it is repetition over time. And there's also now, and I think other regions can get to this place. There's a real sense of pride in how we work together and how we collaborate with one another. And so if you do have someone who's going rogue a little bit, it's not just me saying, hey, this isn't how we do things. We work well together. But we spend a lot of time with our elected officials. They are real partners in our work. They are, as I said, involved in that leadership roundtable meeting that we host every month. I spend one-on-one time with them. The other thing that I tell my team and I tell people in the region is you don't want your first interaction with any local elected official or state elected official to be when you're asking for something. That should not be, so you need to spend time investing in the relationship over time and having them feel that they are a part of the region's success. And understanding the very, very important role that they play in the region's success, so that then when we are coming with, hey, we need to work on this a little differently, or, would you consider this? We've already got a relationship that we've been building over time.
Hi, so I've lived in this region for 11 years, and when I first got here, we had this very siloed, everybody was talking about, it's the same conversation all the time, we don't work together, all of this. And now I think that's changing, and it's actually been very good over the last couple of years for sure. How long did it take the Triangle area to go from a story where, hey, we're not collaborating, to, hey, we're collaborating, and then really drive that message around?
Yeah, it's a great question. So early 2000s was when they felt like they needed to do that family of communities effort that really started to break down some of those barriers. And then I think the real magic happened because they stuck with that commitment to collaboration and leaders like Harvey and Casey Steinbacher was at the chamber at the time. It's now Jeff Durham. I can't make that up. He's at the Durham Chamber. His last name's Durham. Jeff Durham at the Durham Chamber. So, you know, that sort of mantle has been passed down from leader to leader, that commitment to it. And, you know, but that initial effort in 2000 where they got everybody together and said, hey, how we've been working isn't working for us. And then they stuck with it. I think another thing that was important is that in that effort, municipalities contributed money toward the effort too, and so they had real skin in the game, and that showed other partners that they were serious about it, and then it's just continued. But I started in the Raleigh area with Raleigh Economic Development in 2004, and so from 2000 to 2004, it was already getting pretty darn solidified. And then those of us that really bought into it continued to carry that message forward. And now, man, we are bullish about it. So about, what, 20 plus years.
Hi there.
Hi.
We have a fairly large presence as far as research in the RTP, and we enjoy our time there. But when we look at life sciences, San Diego and Boston are still named as the #1 and 2 hubs. What is your vision as you are really the benchmark in many ways? Well, what is your vision for the next 10 to 20 years as you take this?
That's a great question. So the Triangle market, you're right. You know, when you think of like the largest life science markets, you think of Boston, Cambridge, and California. We are climbing from the 5th largest, so we're making progress up. I don't know that, you know, I aspire to necessarily have the designation of the #1. I don't spend much time worrying about that. What we are focusing on is we will continue to be a growing life science market and making sure that the life science opportunities aren't just focused in the park. As I mentioned, Holly Springs has had some significant wins with Amgen and Fujifilm. Morrisville has. Our development community is responding with some great projects that are going to recruit life science. We're looking at some urban life science offerings that our life science companies are saying that they would like, so some reuse opportunities in our downtown that we're excited about. The North Carolina Biotechnology Center is fantastic. We're working closely with Durham Tech and Wake Tech on training programs to fuel the life science industry. So they actually have a partnership, the two community colleges, with Eli Lilly, but to support the life science industry. So our focus is making sure that we have the infrastructure, both true infrastructure, water, sewer, energy, but also human infrastructure, site infrastructure, to enable that industry to continue to grow. What I'm focused on is making sure that we don't that we knock down any barriers to that growth, that we don't end up hemming it in because we weren't paying attention to something that we needed to be paying attention to. Absolutely. I think we're at time. Thank you all so much for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much, Adrienne.